Hello again from Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin, broadcasting from Rigel Studios here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is about guns, related political issues, and self-defense. Fired Up is on our website, Fired Up with Bob Irwin. A new show is posted every Thursday at around 5 p.m. Pacific time. These new shows also appear, at least for the moment, on YouTube and a lot of other media. Audio feed is rebroadcast for radio listeners Saturdays at noon on the Nevada Talk Network. Check out the stations in your area at KELY1230.com. There are about 18 stations throughout Nevada. Right now, not including Las Vegas. We're working on that as we speak. I got a call this morning about that. Questions and comments, send an email to bob@firedupmail.com or leave a message on my home office recorder, 702-257-1060. If you leave contact information, we'll respond by email, text, or telephone. Questions directed to our guest will be forwarded in normal sense. Today's guest has his own website for that, which he will give you just shortly. There are several hundred defensive uses of firearms every week in the United States, rarely covered by any mainstream media, so we always present a few for our listeners' education. Most of these we use are good shootings. Some are questionable. Sometimes they're wrongful shootings, but they're all educational for people who own firearms or carry a firearm for self-defense. As a warning, we always add individual incidents are generally adjudicated under local law. The advice given here might not apply to listeners in different jurisdictions, so if you're involved in a case that's actually going on, get a hold of myself or my guest and we will direct you to an attorney in your state that handles gun cases. My guest today is California and Nevada firearms specialist kind of attorney, Donald J. Green. Don, welcome to the show again.
Okay, thank you.
And a little bit of your background, if you would.
Well, thank you. First of all, Bob, I want to thank you and Rigel Studios for allowing me to be a guest on many of your shows. For your listeners and your viewers who may not know me, my name is Don Green, and my direct cellular is 702-409-8239. The substantial emphasis of our practice has to do with guns and related issues. It's everything from purchasing firearms, selling firearms, representation before the FBI, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, before various agencies concerning firearms and licensing, and of course when people are charged with criminally possessing firearms or the accidental or the discharge of firearms in various scenarios. Again, you can reach me 24 hours a day on my direct cellular at 702-409-8239. Thank you.
All right. This case, this first case we're going to talk about, is just a convoluted shooting case that explains, as I go through this, why you need to talk to a lawyer when you're involved in a shooting case. This is from Jackson, Mississippi. This story was originally published on January 14th of 2019. A woman charged with murder for fatally shooting her boyfriend on their front porch more than 2 years ago has been convicted of a lesser charge. The 30-year-old shooter was originally charged with one count of open murder for the May 8th, 2016 shooting death of her 27-year-old boyfriend. After about 3 hours of deliberation, the jury of 8 women and 4 men found the defendant guilty of one count of involuntary manslaughter at the conclusion of the second trial. After a 5-day and 2 days of deliberation, her first jury, back in June of 2017, a jury found her not guilty of first-degree murder, but guilty of the lesser charge of discharging a firearm causing death, which caused this case to be tried over again. The jurors during her second trial could not reach a verdict on the second-degree murder charge, but found her guilty of involuntary manslaughter, which was added before closing arguments as a lesser charge option for the jurors. That's kind of unusual. They get to add that right at the end, but maybe that's Mississippi law. Her defense argued throughout the case the man was abusing her for years and that she had finally had enough. They said she never intended to kill him, but the shotgun went off accidentally when she was attempting to scare him away. I've heard that once or twice in my career. Sometimes it's true. Prosecutors disagreed, arguing that she was angry, believing the man was cheating on her. They said she put into motion a plan to ambush him when he came home, shooting him while he stood on the front porch. A note here, Mississippi involuntary manslaughter carries up to 15 years in prison. So this is obviously a serious thing, even if she's only convicted of involuntary manslaughter. Because she had no criminal history before the shooting, her recommended sentence will likely be 3 to 4 years in prison, her attorney George Lyons relayed on this. The defendant has been in jail since her arrest on the night of the shooting. This is 2 years now, giving her more than 2 years credit for time served. Sentencing is scheduled for March 7th, which that's the day we're taping this show, which will be shown next week on the 14th. So hopefully we'll then know by then, and on a future show we can get into what happened to her. Anyway, it's scheduled for March 7th before Circuit Judge Thomas Wilson. My comments first, the probability of an accidental discharge caused by the tension of the moment is a strong possibility with an unintended murder. We'll never know absolutely for sure. I have seen this claimed by numerous defendants that I've worked for and in numerous cases I've watched. And when you're under that kind of stress, most people pull the trigger. I'll have a comment on an upcoming case I've got when we get a little further on with Don here. But this is where lawyers earn their money, Mr. Green.
Yes. Bob, notice that it took two juries, in order to arrive at this particular result of the reckless discharge of the firearm where someone is injured or killed. It validates the point which you have made thousands of times in your concealed weapons classes, in your self-defense issues, and in my practice when we talk to people, that the case isn't over until it's over. And in this case, we see very clearly that there was a trial, there's a retrial based on either erroneous jury instructions or something happened in the trial for a retrial until this result is achieved. And that is, it's a very serious and tragic case. Breaking this case apart as a lawyer, let's look at the prosecution's case. According to their theory, she's jealous, she's angry, she's lying in wait in the area of the porch because she believes her boyfriend is cheating on her. The porch is very important because you don't have to be just take it as a case at Walmart. Take it as a case in front of the gas station or a 7-Eleven or any convenience store. What is happening at that particular moment if you bring the weapon to the fight, thinking that there's going to be something happening, even if you want to scare somebody, the probability is if that firearm is fired, you're going to jail. Now, suppose that she wasn't in the porch, but she was in the house, and neighbors heard a commotion. They looked outside and they could see this 27-year-old male kicking in the door, and then they hear screams and then a bang. That is a completely different scenario. But when you're in the porch, she brought the weapon from the house. More than likely this shotgun, which even if it did go off accidentally, was not accidentally at the porch itself or stationed in the porch itself. And that's probably a strong point for the prosecution. On the other hand, on the defense of I'm a battered woman, let's take it to whether or not you're a battered woman, whether or not I'm a scared homeowner. I'm in my own house. Do I have to shoot? Is there the threat of great bodily injury or death at that particular moment? What is the time of day? Who is the suspected perpetrator? Is it this 9-year-old child who's ran into the wrong house, who opened the door and accidentally and you shoot him? You have to look at these factors. So I was a scared homeowner, and if we take last week's show with the 80-year-old man who shot these two guys who were going to hold up his deli, he made the right decision at the right moment based on what he could see and perceive. But in this case, the defense has a hard time showing the nexus between the defense of battered wife or I'm a homeowner in my home and having the weapon at the porch. That's why listeners and viewers have to look at this. You have to train and look at the scenario, look at the situation which you have concerning the particular firearm. You don't always have to shoot. Look beyond where you're shooting, because she fired a shotgun. And remember that these shootings are milliseconds. 3 feet, 3 shots, 3 seconds, average concealed weapon shooting. But these things happen in milliseconds. And as Bob pointed out, when you're nervous and your finger's on the trigger, it doesn't matter whether you've got an itchy finger. What's going to happen is it could go off. And if it goes off in the wrong way, you could face murder, manslaughter, and then discharge of a firearm, or the reckless discharge of a firearm where someone is likely to be harmed or killed. Again, this took 2 juries, so I commend the defense for keeping this case on track. And for your listeners, it's not going to end just because you say, I'm a battered wife. I'm a homeowner and he broke into my house. Don't think that's going to be the end of the story, because it might not be. And this woman is a perfect illustration of from beginning to end. You've got to stay focused on your defense, stay focused on what you're doing, and not change anything.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to mention, I can't get into the details of the case, but as it happens, I was contacted while I was writing this story. My phone went off, and it's an investigator that I've known for years and years, a private investigator. And he has a client who the attorney is, I haven't spoken to the attorney yet, and I can't obviously talk about the case, but that's a similar, I was holding this gun under a stressful situation and it went off. And what I told him was, in my experience, guns do not fire by themselves. In virtually every case, the trigger was pressed by somebody. Occasionally you have a gun which will fire when dropped. I know that's impossible, but there are cases where it's happened. But a gun loaded with a broken safety, a broken trigger, a broken barrel, a broken grips, broken everything, still sitting at rest will not go off. It's always acted upon by some outside force, generally which is somebody pulling the trigger. They may not realize they pulled the trigger, but the stress of the incident will generally cause that. Talk to anybody you know who's a veteran that did some time in the sandbox, and ask them how many accidental discharges they've seen in real life. That fortunately nobody got hit. Sometimes somebody is hit, but these cases are constant. We're going to take a short break. I want to talk a little bit about some commercial logo items that we now have on our website. If you go to www.firedupwithboberwinstore.com. Just the whole thing all typed out. You will find our website there, which sells T-shirts and hats and coffee cups and all sorts of paraphernalia that we are endeavoring to use to raise funds for this show. I don't make a lot of money giving away free advice on YouTube, and we're trying to cover some of our costs here because this is expensive to do. And I would very much encourage you to go to that website when you have a moment, take a look and order something. That website will take PayPal and Visa and MasterCard and you name it, they take it, PayPal, all that sort of thing. You can see the sizes and costs on things there. We're modifying them as we go along, as we order more stuff, the costs are coming down. But they're in the ballpark, and that's on the website now. And we'll get your stuff out to you. I appreciate that very much. Now, we'll go back to real life. This is a story from CBS TV 7 in Midland, Texas, a couple of days ago. And this is a tragedy that we'll discover if it needed to happen. A Midland police officer, let me find my little button here. A Midland police officer was shot and killed overnight, according to a city spokesperson. Midland Mayor Jerry Morales has identified the officer as a 5-year veteran, Nathan Hayden Heidelberg. An internal email obtained by multiple media sources reports that Heidelberg is a probationary police officer, plus 2 additional officers responded to a burglar alarm around 2:30 a.m. at a Midland home on Tuesday evening. Again, this just happened. The email says the officer made a loud announcement that they're being there at the front door, but the homeowner believed that his house was being broken into. The homeowner then shot toward the flashlight being held by the officer, hitting him above his bulletproof vest. Despite MPD personnel trying to treat and transport the officer to the emergency room, he died a few hours later from his injuries. Mayor Morales said the officer Heidelberg, passed away at 8:30 a.m. Again, this took place at 2:30 in the morning. The Texas Rangers will be doing the investigation, obviously, because the agency can't investigate its own shootings. The city of Midland is expected to release more information throughout the day. Law enforcement agencies across West Texas have shared their support for the Midland Police Department. You see this, Don, and I don't know, where you would begin. Perhaps the resident was a mental case or deaf, or firing at a flashlight in the middle of the night is incredibly stupid. You have to be sure your target's a real threat. Like I said, I don't know all the details. Use loud warnings. Why wouldn't you scream at them? Who is that? This is my house. Get away from my house. The officers responding to hot calls like this were always in uniform, and generally, as policy, always announce themselves clearly. I expect the radio traffic will confirm this because the officers were on the air when this was happening, and there's going to be as I always call the dispatch tapes, the unshakable witness as to the actual sequence of events. This is the type of thing that makes gun laws and gives the liberals something to say, well, we got to take guns away from all these idiots, and nobody's safe with a gun. We'll get more details on this, I'm sure, but I can't imagine.
Let's look at it from 2 perspectives. First, let's look at it as a good shooting. 1, burglar alarm goes off. But did the police attempt to contact the resident through either the burglar alarm company or through a 911 call or through some kind of telephonic communication? We don't have that yet. Second, the loud announcement, police, police might not be enough, because anyone can break into your house. Anyone can scream police. Anyone can scream search warrant. I had that in a situation about 15 years ago at they're called budget suites in Nevada. They're weekly places that have little apartments, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, and you pay by the week, and all the utilities and TV and pool and everything is included. But someone was pounding at the door screaming search warrant, but they were joking. And when the other people in the other suites had heard this, they had called the police, and by that time there was already a fight which had ensued inside the house, because the guy didn't realize that they weren't police. But then when the real police arrived and they saw the fight, everybody got arrested. My client was finally vindicated because he didn't realize that he was fighting with a real police officer. So anyone can break in and say they're the police. So, in that respect, you have to, from defending the homeowner, what was his perception at that precise moment in time? I see a flashlight. I've heard loud noises. I've heard muffling. I've heard someone scream something. And I'm getting out of bed. And remember, this is 2:30 in the morning. So I acted reasonably, and I thought that when I saw the flashlight, that at that moment that I feared for my safety, great bodily harm, or even death at that moment. I'm in my house. I'm a law-abiding citizen, and it's 2:30 in the morning. Next perspective. It's not a good shooting. Well, the police did announce themselves. Would the reason, and the district attorney and the law is probably going to say, would the reasonably prudent person have thought for one moment, however long, that there was a genuine police emergency at that particular location, that is, in my house, which would cause the reasonably prudent homeowner to say, are you the police? Why are you here? We are the police, Midland Police. Drop your weapon. We're checking out a burglar alarm. Can you hear it? And maybe the burglar alarm is going off. We don't know about that. We don't know if it's a silent alarm, like something with ADT and these other alarm companies. We don't hear it. And if the homeowner heard it, that also goes to defending, to the point that we can defend him. It also goes to help the police. Second, as far as not a good shooting, as Bob points out, shooting a flashlight or towards a flashlight is not always the best thing to do. Was there an immediate danger? Contrary argument, it's in my house. It's 2:30 in the morning. I live in West Texas. I can defend myself. So this is going to be a close call. I think that the likely result will be that there will be no criminal charges filed against the homeowner, but because of the standard of proof is so low, he can probably expect a civil suit from the family members of the police officer.
Yeah, we may have a case here where nobody actually did anything wrong, and it's just the circumstances. Your heart has to go out to this police officer and the whole department there. We got a little bit of time here, so I want to pick up this extra story they had from the Review Journal. If we can get that up on, there we go. Look at this. Boy, are they efficient in the control room. This is from the Review Journal here in Las Vegas. A reporter by the name of Rio Canlalti. I'm sorry I can't pronounce your name, but it's Lacanlalle, if you make up your own pronunciation. He reported on March 5th, a 14-year-old has been arrested on suspicion of murder in the death of an 18-year-old man, a shooting that Las Vegas police believe was gang-related. The The juvenile is facing adult felony charges for murder with a deadly weapon, conspiracy to commit murder, and discharging a firearm within or from a structure or vehicle in the October 26th shooting. Metro Homicide, this is Metro Homicide Detective Lieutenant Ray Spencer giving that statement. Charges of murder and discharging a firearm against the 14-year-old have a gang crime enhancement, which would add from 1 to 20 years in prison sentence for each charge under Nevada law. The Clark County School District could neither confirm or deny that whether the suspect is enrolled as a student. His next court appearance is scheduled on March 13th in Las Vegas Justice Court. A note here, in Nevada, minors 16 or older accused of murder are automatically certified as adults in the court system, while children 13 or older may be confirmed as an adult by motion of the district attorney and after a full investigation and hearing by the court. So this youngster can be charged as an adult, and he apparently is being charged as an adult. And this is apparently a gang shooting, but what struck me here is this 14-year-old is so involved in the gang lifestyle already that he's beyond saving. Most of regular listeners know I did a case on a smoke shop shooting here where the perp was 13 years old and was shot by a store clerk coming in violently into his store. And it was settled against the store owner, but with minor penalties for that. It's probably not the subject for Fired Up, but what are we looking at here when 14-year-olds are so wound into the gang lifestyle they intentionally murder people? Granted, he murdered an opposing gangbanger, but how do you reach him? What something's got to be done about this.
It could be as simple as parenting. It could be as simple as education. But let's look at what we've got here from the legal standpoint. From the October 26th shooting until March 4th of 2019, the day of the arrest, that was 129 days. During that 129 days, I'm certain that the district attorney's office had presented the motion to the juvenile court. They had the hearing of the pros and cons of why he should be certified as an adult, and then the judge making his decision. So for that period of time, we have a young man who's literally isolated at the juvenile court because they try to isolate these violent offenders. Again, this is going to be cannon fodder for the anti-gun pundits who are going to say, wait a minute, if he would never have had the gun in the first place, this would never have happened. Well, that's true. Had Hitler not said, if you want to take over a country, the first thing you do is disarm the citizenry, would we have had a different result of the Holocaust and the takeover of Czechoslovakia and the Sudetenland and France and Prussia? You can't argue that. But the thing is that it boils down to parenting, it boils down to education, but it also makes, it's food for thought for your viewers and your listeners, is that gun safety in the home. In fact, there's a Nevada legislative bill which is being proposed by Ozzie Fomo, an attorney of some notoriety here in Las Vegas, and that's Assembly Bill 153, would create a misdemeanor for persons who have been found negligently storing firearms under their control if they know there is a substantial risk that a child can access it. So we already have laws on the books, but they want to put in some teeth into laws where the firearms owner, as a legitimate legal firearms owner, is going to have more responsibility now. And perhaps that's also one of the points to be raised as a result of this particular situation.
Yeah, this story isn't really offered for a solution, and I'm putting Don on the spot, asking what the solution, I don't think anybody knows the solution to this, but anyway, we're out of time, so we'll be back next Thursday on YouTube and on the American Guns and Gore Network and on our website and. When you see this show, hit subscribe and you'll get new shows automatically on late Friday afternoon. Share the broadcast with your friends if you would. Don't forget to check out our merchandise at firedupwithboberwinstore.com. Thanks for watching Fired Up,
Thank you again.
and we'll see you next time.